Hi, welcome to the June book wrap-up.
Intro.
This month, which is still ongoing, it's the 25th. Hopefully the video will go up on this day. And I still have some books started, but that's the only moment where I think I'll get to sit down and review what I've got going so far. So this month is Pride Month, and because of that I've been exploring or re-exploring works of Alexis Hall. He's, I believe, a member of the LGBTQ community in some way or other, but all his books contain and are about LGBT characters. I already reviewed 2 books of his last month. I'll link it up here, For Real and The Affair of Mysterious Letter. And this month I've read Glitterland, Waiting for the Flood, and Boyfriend Material. The first 2 are part of his Spires universe, which is my favorite. It's a series of quite sad romance novels, or quite heavy romance novels. All of them talk about gay men. So does the Boyfriend Material, frankly. I'll review all of his books as a batch. I'll do a dedicated video. I also started How to Bang a Billionaire, which is also a book of his. And all the books of his that I read this month, I've already read before. So yeah, just wait for that dedicated video. It's upcoming, I don't know how soon. Well, next month for sure. Apart from that, I've also read several books by Agatha Christie. I've reread, I'm still rereading stuff. ABC, After the Funeral, and A Mysterious Affair at Styles. Anyhow, ABC is one of my favorite Agatha Christie novels. I would definitely give it 5 stars out of 5. It has very much this classic detective-led crime story feel to it, and the crime is pretty interesting. It's a very intriguing concept because the book is about a serial killer who murders people for each letter of the alphabet. That's the concept. Not going to give away anything else. There's also plenty of good audiobooks. BBC does great dramatizations of Agatha Christie works. I really recommend those. And all the ones that I have here, I checked, come in this set of dramatized BBC works by Agatha Christie, or BBC dramatized works by Agatha Christie, which you can get on Audible, which I have, and it slaps. After the Funeral has a similarly classic vibe. It's kind of hard to explain, but how to quantify that? I am not even sure how to express what I like about it, but I think that one of the biggest pluses of Agatha Christie works is the fact that she's lived for so long, so she's been able to explore the customs, fashions, and happenings of like 6 different decades, because she's been a very prolific author. And After the Funeral is also one of my favorite books. I think I would also give it 5 stars out of 5. And the last Agatha Christie book that I read was The Mysterious Affair at Styles. The Affair of the Mysterious Letter is the book by Alexis Hall. Affair at Styles is, I am not sure whether it was written first. However, canonically, that's the first story in which Hercule Poirot appears. The story is narrated by Captain Hastings, who is Hercule Poirot's sidekick in most of the books and also narrator of a lot of the books. And this story feels a little bit more clunky, a little bit more contrived. I cannot really rate it too low because it's such a classic and a staple, but I do feel that it's one of the less polished ones. It's a tad more contrived and a little bit harder to suspend disbelief when it comes to the method in which Poirot solves the crime, but also the workings of the justice system, and first and foremost, the behavior of characters in this book is not very believable. None of the brothers or secondary characters, to be honest. And I also read 3 new books. I've finished Leviathan Wakes by James Corey. I mentioned starting this book in the previous month's book wrap-up. I was 3/4 of the way into the book, and there was then I just said some character dynamic, but I'm just going to name it. A certain friendship occurred in the book, which I was very emotionally invested in. And I said that if it's going to be something very important to the story, I'm going to keep on reading the books in the series. Well, it didn't end up happening, so that's a no on me for reading the rest of the series, because it's very hard for me to invest in a series as long as this one. However, I do not regret reading the book, because despite not going the way I wanted it to, a certain other thing which really expanded the portrayed universe happened, and the ending of the book reminded me of a certain Love, Death, Robots story. I'm going to put it in the description, at the bottom of the description box, the one that I'm talking about, just to avoid spoilers in case you're intrigued what I am talking about. But if you see which one it is, it's going to spoil you the end of the book. But I really loved it. I really loved it. I know that it can be read in a somewhat sexist way, but I am not going to. I'd rather read it in a fully gross way, and I hope that it was the way it's intended. Anyhow, I'd give it this book, I'd say 3.5 stars. If I had to round it up, I would round it up to 4, but it's a weak 4. And that is because this book is so heavy on world building that it doesn't really leave much space for plot or character development. It felt kind of skimmed over, which is a thing in sci-fi, that characters and plot is sometimes not the most important thing. For example, Dune is all world building, but it clearly was first book of the series. It sets up the world, and I believe I have no way of knowing, but I'm fairly certain that latter books are going to have more plot or are going to be less info dumpy. Still, week 4, so 3.5 stars. I also DNF'd or did not finish The Bride Test by Helen Hong. She's a romance book writer. I really enjoyed a book of hers called The Kiss Quotient, and I was hoping that this book will be just as good. However, I felt that I only read a third of the book. The characters have so little agency, and I understand that because the book takes place within the Vietnamese American community or Vietnamese community in America, and I know that these cultures are not individualistic, and that involvement of the family in decision making is relevant. But I think the characters in the book had so little agency, and I don't believe it's a cultural thing. I think it's these characters particular, or this book particular thing. And I also really dislike manipulative relatives or meddling relatives, and I am really personally struggling with finding a book set within Asian culture where there is no manipulation, because I am honestly fine with exploring the culture with heavy involvement of different family members. However, the underhanded and straight up emotionally manipulative way that some parents or sisters or brothers go about getting their own outcome from their younger siblings or their children is really not it for me, and it's really hard for me to read. So, but honestly, the thing that made me put this book away is the fact that the main character was considering trying on somebody else's wedding dress, and that's what tipped the scale for me. That's why I didn't finish. So I'm not going to rate The Bride Test, but yeah, I don't recommend it. The last book that I finished this month was a novella audiobook called Sunset Springs, written by Kason Callender and performed by Komora Yohanan. And both people involved in this audiobook are Black, non-binary Americans. And the book tells the story of Charlie, a Black transgender man who, with his tail between his legs, goes back to the small southern town of Sunset Springs after having been fired from his job as an editor. In the town, awaiting him is his sick mom, but also Jackson, a guy he knew back in high school as a rebel and a football, I guess, jock. And I read this book specifically because it is June, and while I would have loved to love it, I didn't. The book discusses heavily the themes of homophobia and transphobia in this terrible town. And that's part of the problem I have with this book, is that this town and the people in the town comes off as so irredeemable, so unlikable, so terrible. So this is definitely not a light read it is advertised as. And also I really struggle with the timeline. It's very hard for me to believe relationship being what it was when the book spans, I think, 2 summer months and the novella is under 3 hours long, so it feels very, very, very rushed. I also did not like the ending, which had a lot of build up to it, but then was very quick and I don't feel explained or just lingered on enough. So yeah, I didn't like the book, so I am going to give it 2 out of 5 stars. So yeah, I guess that's it for this month. This video I think is not too long. Next one will probably be about Rick and Morty. There I still have plans for some upcoming videos. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe. All my social media are linked in the description box. I am active on Reddit and stream on there every week if you would like to check it out. And having said all of that, see you later and bye bye. Okay, so while I've read Leviathan. Okay, la 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 la. I cannot. I don't want to spoil. La 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 la.